Cam Jansen and the Mystery of the Dinosaur Bones. "Look," Cam said to Eric. "Miss Benson is waiting for us to be quiet." "Our tour will begin in 20 minutes, Miss Benson said. "But first, I must ask those of you who brought cameras along to keep your cameras in their cases. The taking of photographs in the museum is not allowed." Miss Benson got down from the chair. "See," Cam said to Eric, "I told you not to bring your camera. Last time I was here, someone was told to leave the museum because he was taking pictures." "Well," Eric said, "maybe I can't take pictures, but you can. Take a picture of me now, with your mental camera." Cam's mental camera is her memory. She can take one look at a page in a book, close her eyes, and remember every word on the page. "It's easy for me," Cam often explained. "I have a photograph of the page stored in my brain. When I want to remember what I saw, I just look at the photograph." When people found out about Cam's amazing photographic memory, they stopped using her real name, Jennifer, and they started calling her the Camera. Soon, the camera was shortened to Cam. Cam looked straight at Eric and said, "Click." She always said click when she wanted to remember something. Cam says that click is the sound her mental camera makes when it takes a picture. "Close your eyes," Eric said. "Now what do you remember?" Cam thought for a moment. Then she said, "There's a drop of mustard on your collar. You should wipe it off." Eric looked down. There was a drop of mustard on his collar. He took a napkin and wiped it off. "On the side of the milk container you just bought," Cam went on, "it says, 'Edna's, our cows send you their love and their milk.' You're wearing a blue shirt. The top button of the shirt once came off, and someone sewed it back on." "You're right," Eric said. "But how did you know about the button?" Cam opened her eyes. "It's a thread," she said. "I remembered that the top button was sewn on with white thread. The other buttons have light blue thread." Miss Benson was standing on a chair again. She said to the class, "Clean your tables and then get into a double line." Cam and Eric quickly threw away their empty milk containers and the wrappings from their lunches. Then they got in line. Miss Benson led the class up the stairs to the museum lobby. They were met there by a young woman in a purple dress. "I'm Janet Tyler," the woman in the purple dress said. "I will be your guide. Please stay together and follow me." The guide led the class to the air travel room. She pointed out the models of the earliest flying machines. There was a full-size model of the 1903 Wright Brothers airplane. Miss Tyler took the class to a weather station room with a solar energy exhibit. Then she led the class into a large room with a very high ceiling. "This next exhibit is my favorite," the guide told the class. "Mine too," Cam whispered to Eric. Chapter 2. The class followed the guide into the room. Glass cases filled with old tools, bones, rocks, and photographs lined the walls. On a platform in the center of the room was part of the skeleton of a very large dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus. Some of the bones from the skeleton were lying on the platform. The wires had come loose, and the skeleton was being repaired. "This is the skeleton of a Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus," Janet Tyler said again, slowly so everyone could hear how the word was pronounced. "The Brachiosaurus was the biggest dinosaur. It weighed over 50 tons. That's more, I'm sure, than all the children in your whole school weighed together." Then the guide led the class to another dinosaur skeleton. It was much smaller than the Brachiosaurus. Its mouth was open, and its hands were stretched out as if it was ready to grab something to eat. "Look at those teeth," someone in the class said. "And look at the tail. It's so long and pointy." "This is the skeleton of a Coelophysis," the guide said. "Coelophysis," she said again slowly. "Now, you may know about some dinosaurs, but I'm sure no one knows anything about the Coelophysis." "I do," Cam said. Everyone turned to look at Cam. They were surprised that she knew about the Coelophysis. Miss Benson had never mentioned it when she taught the class about dinosaurs. Cam had read about the Coelophysis. She wanted to remember exactly what the book said. She closed her eyes and said, "Click." When Cam said, "Click," the guide started to laugh. She covered her mouth with her hand. "The Coelophysis," Cam said, with her eyes still closed, "was one of the first dinosaurs. It was about 8 feet long, including its tail. It weighed no more than 50 pounds. It was a meat eater and—" "Yes, thank you," the guide said before Cam had a chance to finish. "What you may not know is that these bones were discovered by Dr. Kurt Daub, the scientist who started this museum." "Are people still finding dinosaur bones?" Eric asked. "Yes," Miss Tyler answered. "I'll be going on a dinosaur hunt in a few weeks, and I hope to find some myself." Someone else asked, "Are all those bones real?" "No, Dr. Daub didn't find a complete skeleton. Some of these bones were made from plaster of Paris." There were many other questions, but Cam stopped listening. She was busy studying the dinosaur's tail. "Something's wrong," she whispered to Eric. Cam closed her eyes and said, "Click." She kept them closed for a while. Then she looked again at the dinosaur's tail. "I was right," Cam said to Eric. "Something is wrong. 3 of the dinosaur bones are missing." Chapter 3. Cam raised her hand and tried to get the museum guide's attention, but Miss Tyler looked past her. The guide pointed to a boy wearing a suit and bow tie. "You have a question?" "I want to know why they're called dinosaurs." Miss Tyler smiled. "The name dinosaur comes from 2 words. Dino, which means terrible, and saur, which means lizard. So when we call them dinosaurs, we are really calling them terrible lizards." "What did dinosaurs eat?" another boy asked. "Some ate meat, some ate plants, and some ate the eggs of other dinosaurs." Then the guide looked at Cam. She smiled. "It seems that the red-haired girl, the one who says click, has a question." "What happened to the tail?" Cam asked. "The last time I was here, it had 3 more bones. They were right here." Cam pointed to the part of the tail near the hip. Farther down, there were bones that hung down from the tail like ribs. Where Cam pointed, there weren't any bones. "There's nothing missing on this dinosaur," the guide said quickly. "Now, are there any other questions?" "But there are some bones missing. I've been here before and—" "I'm here every day, and this skeleton looks the same as it always does." The guide answered a few other questions. Then she told Miss Benson the tour was finished, and she walked away. Miss Benson was a short woman. She stood on her toes so the whole class could see her. "It's still early," Miss Benson said. "You have an hour to go through the museum by yourselves. At 2:30, all of you must be in the front lobby. If you don't have a watch, please stay near someone who does." "Let's go to the gift shop," Eric said to Cam. "I want to buy presents for my twin sisters and my brother Howie." In the gift shop, there were shelves of books and racks of postcards, kits to make airplane models and models of dinosaurs. They were piled on a table with toys and games. "All I have is $1, Eric said. "I hope I can find something." While Eric looked around, Cam opened a big book called Dinosaurs. There was a whole page on the Coelophysis, but but there was no illustration of its skeleton. The book told about how the Silophysis hunted for food and how it might have looked, but it did not say how many bones the Silophysis had in its tail. "Look what I bought for the twins," Eric said a few minutes later. He reached into a bag and took out 2 small whistles, each in the shape of a brachiosaurus. Cam took one of the whistles and blew into it. It was a dog whistle. It made a sound dogs could hear clearly, but Cam and Eric could hardly hear. "These whistles are for calling dogs," Cam said. "Why did you buy them? Your family doesn't have a dog." "I know, but these whistles are also toy dinosaurs. They're just 29 cents each. Everything else costs too much." Eric reached into the bag again and took out 2 postcards. "Look at these," he said. "This one's for Howie." It was a picture of a hot air balloon. "And this one's for me." The second postcard had a picture of the Silophysis skeleton. "Let me see that," Cam said. Cam looked at the postcard carefully. Then she closed her eyes and said, "Click." "This is it," she said, waving the postcard. "This is the way the skeleton looked when I saw it the last time I was here. Let's go to the dinosaur room. You'll see, some bones are missing." Cam and Eric quickly walked through the museum. "All right," Cam said when they stood in front of the Silophysis. "You count the bones hanging from the tail of the skeleton. I'll count the ones on the postcard." Cam counted the bones on the postcard a few times. Then she said, "I counted 34 on the tail. How many did you count?" 31. Chapter 4. Cam looked at her watch. It was 2:30. "Come on, Eric," she said. "It's time to go." Eric put the postcards and whistles in his pocket, and they went to meet the class in the lobby. Miss Benson asked the class to line up. Then she led them to the school bus. On the bus, Cam and Eric talked about the missing dinosaur bones. "Why would anyone want them?" Eric asked. "And how could anyone steal the bones?" Cam added. "The skeleton's wired together. In the time it would take someone to unhook a bone, I'm sure someone will walk past and see what they were doing." The bus stopped in the school parking lot. Miss Benson stood up. "It's after 3 o'clock, she said, "so you may all go home." It was a warm spring day. Cam and Eric had ridden their bicycles to school that morning. They went to the rack behind the school to get their bicycles. As Cam unlocked her bicycle, she said, "The bones can't be taken when the museum is open. There are too many people around, and too many guards. It must be done after the museum closes. Let's go back there. Maybe we can find out what's going on." "But the museum closes early today," Eric said. "We won't have any time to look around." Cam put rubber bands on the cuffs of her pants to keep them from getting caught in the bicycle as she rode. "All we have to look for is a place to hide," Cam said. "We don't have to be home until 6 today. We can stay in the dinosaur room after the museum closes and watch to see what happens." Cam was already on her bicycle. She started to ride away before Eric could tell her that he didn't want to hide in the museum. Eric got in his bicycle. He pedaled hard, but he couldn't catch up with Cam. By the time he locked his bicycle in front of the museum, Cam was already halfway up the steps. He caught up with her in the dinosaur room. A bell sounded. "The museum closes in 5 minutes, a guard called out. "Let's leave now," Eric said, "or we'll be locked inside." Cam crawled under a glass case filled with photographs. Eric followed her. Cam whispered to Eric, "You can leave if you want to, but I'm staying." The bell sounded again. From their hiding place, Cam and Eric could see only the bottoms of the other exhibit cases and the feet of the dinosaur skeletons. A few people walked past the glass case, but all Cam and Eric could see were their legs. Then it was quiet. "We did it," Cam said. It was quiet for a while, but soon Cam and Eric heard footsteps. A man was walking from case to case. He stopped at Cam and Eric's case. Then he bent down and looked straight at Cam and Eric. Chapter 5. It was one of the museum guards. "Come with me," he said. The guard led them out of the dinosaur room, through the museum lobby to the office of the museum director. The guard knocked on the door and walked in. Cam and Eric followed him. The walls of the office were covered with paintings of prehistoric animals. There were statues of famous scientists and large stuffed animals all over the room. Cam and Eric couldn't find the director among all of those paintings and statues. "Didn't you hear the bell?" the director asked. Then Cam and Eric saw him. He was sitting between a statue of a woman scientist and 2 stuffed owls. "Yes, we heard the bell," Cam said, "but 3 dinosaur bones are missing. Someone's stealing bones from the tail of the Dilophosaurus skeleton, and we want to see who it is." "That's impossible," the director said, stroking his beard. "Nothing is missing, but if you want to watch over the Dilophosaurus, you can come back tomorrow when the museum opens." Then he said to the guard, "Now please take these children to the door and make sure that this time they leave the museum." Cam and Eric followed the guard to the front entrance. The guard opened the door with a key and let them out. "Now what?" Eric asked. "There's nothing we can do," Cam said. "We can't get back inside, so let's go home." While Cam and Eric started to unlock their bicycles, a truck rode past them. It backed into the museum driveway. A sign painted on the side of the truck said, "Beth's milk tastes best." "That's strange," Cam said. "Milk is usually delivered early in the morning, not late in the afternoon." A man in a white uniform got out of the truck. He was carrying an empty milk box. "Maybe some of the milk went bad," Eric said, "and he's picking it up." The milkman knocked on the garage door. The door opened and he went inside. He came out a few minutes later, carrying a large brown bag in the box. He put it in the truck. "There's probably a whole bunch of containers of sour milk in that bag," Eric said. Cam and Eric heard the door on the other side of the truck open and someone get inside, but they couldn't see who it was. Then the truck backed up. As the truck passed them, Cam read the sign again. "There's something else that's strange about that truck," Cam said. She closed her eyes and said, "Click." "The museum doesn't use Beth's milk. It uses Edna's. That's what it said on the milk container you bought in the cafeteria." Cam got on her bicycle. She turned to Eric and said, "That man wasn't picking up sour milk. He was picking up something else. Come on, let's follow the truck." Chapter 6. The streets were crowded with cars. It was after 4 o'clock, and many people were driving home from work. Cam stayed on the right-hand side of the street. Eric rode behind her. The milk truck was already a block ahead. Cam and Eric pedaled hard to catch up. As Cam pedaled, her bicycle made a loud clicking sound. The kickstand was loose, and one of the pedals hit it as it went around. The milk truck made a right turn onto a side street, but before Cam and Eric could reach the corner, Cam had to stop. The loose kickstand was in the way. It was impossible for Cam to pedal. Eric got off his bicycle too. He pushed the kickstand on Cam's bicycle back into place. Cam said, "Thank you." "You really need a new one," Eric told her. Cam and Eric got on their bicycles again. When they reached the corner, they signaled and turned. Cam looked ahead. A big brown dog was running along the sidewalk. A few cars were parked along the side of the street, but Cam couldn't see the milk truck. She stopped and waited for Eric. "We lost it," Cam said. "Maybe not. I think I see a truck parked in the driveway of one of those houses on the next block. Maybe it's the milk truck." Eric led Cam to a small brick house with a white wooden fence around it. The milk truck was parked in the driveway. No one was sitting inside the truck. "They must have gone into the house," Cam said. She leaned her bicycle against the fence. "You stay here and watch for them," she told Eric. "I'll look around in the back." There was a high window on the side of the garage. As Cam walked past the window, she heard voices. She looked for something to stand on so she could see inside. Someone tapped her on the back. It was Eric. "I locked the bicycles to the fence," he said. "I didn't want to wait out there alone." Cam found an empty wooden milk box behind the house. She put the box right under the window, climbed up, and looked through. There was a large table inside the garage. A few small bones and some larger ones were on the table. The milk box with the brown bag that they had seen the man put in the truck was there too. A bag of plaster of Paris was on the floor near some boxes and metal tubs and a wheelbarrow with a pickaxe and shovel in it. "Get down," Eric whispered. "Someone will see you." "There's no one there," Cam said. "But there is an open door. Maybe it leads into the house. I'll bet that's where they went." Eric climbed up on the box. "Look," Eric said. "The 3 missing bones are on the table." Eric got off the box. He pulled on Cam's sleeve. "Get down," he said. "Let's go back now." Cam didn't move. She kept looking through the window. "We can call the museum," Eric said. "We can tell them we found their missing dinosaur bones." "Someone's coming through the door," Cam said. "It's the milkman." Eric quickly climbed onto the box. Cam and Eric watched the milkman take the brown bag out of the box. The bag was tied with string. The milkman tried to untie the knot. He couldn't. "Why did you tie it so tight?" he called into the house. "Use the scissors," a woman's voice answered. The milkman reached into one of the boxes. He took out a pair of scissors and cut the string. "I wonder what could be in there," Eric whispered. "It can't be a bone from the Silophysis," Cam said quietly. "It's too big." The milkman tore open the side of the bag. There was something large and white inside. He took it out carefully and placed it on the table. "Wow," Eric said. "Look at the size of that bone." "It must be from the Brachiosaurus," Cam said. "The one they were fixing at the museum." The milkman took out a ruler and measured the bone. He took a pad and pencil from his pocket and wrote on the pad. Then he looked at the bag of plaster of Paris. "We need some more plaster," he called into the house. "Then let's go get it," the woman said. The milkman walked through the open door and into the house. "They'll probably use the plaster of Paris to make a copy of the bone," Cam said. "They'll take the copy to the museum tomorrow and leave it there in the place of the real one." "But how did they get in and out of the museum?" Eric asked. "And why do they want the bones?" Cam added. Cam and Eric stopped talking. They heard the front door of the house open and then slam shut. After a few minutes, Cam whispered, "I didn't hear the truck drive away, but they should be gone by now. Let's take a look." Cam walked quietly. Eric followed her. Cam peeked out past the edge of the garage wall. She saw the truck was still in the driveway. And she saw something else. "Our bicycles," Cam said. "What if they see them?" Chapter 7. "We sure did see your bicycles," a man said. Cam turned. It was the milkman. He was standing behind Eric. "Janet!" the milkman called. A woman came out. She was wearing a purple dress. It was Janet Tyler, the museum guide. "Well, well," she said. "Look who we have here. It's the Click-Click girl and her friend." The milkman put a key into a lock at the side of the garage door. The lock was electric. He turned the key and the door opened. The milkman led Cam and Eric into the garage. He pressed a button on the wall and the garage door closed. Janet Tyler and the milkman started to argue. She pointed to the dinosaur bones on the table. "It's all over. We'll have to give these back. And it's your fault. You should have made copies of the 3 small bones last night. Then these kids wouldn't have followed us." "I'm not giving anything back. Not yet," the milkman said. "We'll do just as we planned. We'll take the bones along on our dinosaur hunt. We'll bury them and then dig them up. Then we'll get the bones back to the museum." Janet closed her eyes and said, "I can just see the newspaper headline. Janet Tyler discovers buried dinosaur bones and gives them to the museum. I'll be famous. I'll speak to science groups all over the country. I'll make a fortune." Cam pulled on Eric's sleeve and whispered, "This is our chance. Janet's eyes are closed. Take out the whistles you bought." Eric reached into his pocket. He took out the 2 dog whistles shaped like dinosaurs. Cam took one of them. "When I tell you to, blow the whistle," Cam whispered. "Blow it as hard as you possibly can." "Stop whispering," the milkman said. Janet opened her eyes. She seemed surprised to be in the garage with Cam, Eric, and the milkman. Then the milkman told Cam and Eric, "Either you agree not to tell anyone about our plan, or we'll call the museum director. We'll put the bones in your bicycle baskets and tell the director you took them and we caught you." Cam turned to whisper to Eric. Janet Tyler smiled. "That's right," she said. "You talk it over with your friend." "Quietly count to 3, Cam whispered. "Then blow the whistle." 1. Cam quickly turned around. She pressed the garage door button. 2. The garage door opened. 3. Cam and Eric blew the whistles hard. Janet could hardly hear the sounds the whistles made, but she knew what kind of whistles they were. "Get the bones!" Janet yelled. "Get the bones before some dog comes and runs off with them!" She opened the door to the house. The milkman picked up as many bones as he could carry. "Quick, Eric," Cam said. "Crawl under the table." Chapter 8. Cam and Eric crawled under the table and ran out of the garage. A big brown dog and 2 smaller dogs ran past them toward the garage. Cam and Eric ran around the milk truck to their bicycles. Eric tried to open the lock. He turned the dial a few times. "Hurry," Cam said. "I can't remember the combination." Cam closed her eyes. She said, "Click." Then she thought for a moment. Inside the house there was a noise. Someone was coming out. "It's 4:18:36, Cam said. Eric turned the knob. The lock opened. Cam and Eric got on their bicycles just as the milkman ran out of the house. "Stop!" he yelled. "Let's go," Cam said to Eric. Cam looked both ways. No cars were coming. She quickly rode across the street. Eric followed her. Just as they got across the street, they heard the door of the milk truck open and shut. The engine started. Cam pedaled hard. As she pedaled, her bicycle made a loud clicking sound. She tried to keep pedaling, but she couldn't. The kickstand was in the way. Cam got off her bicycle. Eric stopped. He came over to help. "Hurry, the truck's coming," Cam said. Eric pushed the kickstand back into place. They both got back on their bicycles. Cam started pedaling again. The bicycle made a clicking sound, but not as loud as before. Cam turned quickly and looked behind her. Eric was pedaling hard, and the milk truck was right behind him. Cam pedaled as hard as she could. The clicking sound became louder again, but Cam kept pedaling. She signaled and turned the corner. Eric followed her. Screech! Honk! Honk! Cam stopped pedaling and turned to see what was happening. A car had turned the corner right in front of the milk truck. Both the driver of the car and the milkman had slammed on their brakes. "This is our chance," Cam told Eric. Cam and Eric were riding on a busy street now. There were stores on both sides. Cam saw a narrow path on the side of the candy store. She rode down the path to the back of the store. Eric followed her. "Good thinking," Eric said once they had stopped their bicycles. "When the milkman turns the corner, he won't be able to find us." Cam got off her bicycle. Then she told Eric, "You stay here and watch the bikes. I'm going inside to call the museum." There was only one telephone in the store. A large man was using it. Cam opened the telephone book and looked for the museum's number. "Do you have any shirts on sale?" the man was trying to say into the telephone. "Yes, extra large. I want sky blue shirts, but not rainy day sky blue. It should be sunny day sky blue." Cam found the museum's number. She looked at it and said, "Click." Then she took a coin from her pocket and waited to use the phone. "And I need a green shirt," the man said into the telephone. "But not grass green. It should be more like a traffic light green." Eric came into the store. "I saw the milk truck. It rode right past me." The milkman and Janet Tyler looked angry, but they didn't see me or the bicycles. The man said, "Thank you very much." He hung up and left the booth. Cam said, "Click," to help her remember the museum's number. Then she dialed. "Hello," Cam said into the telephone. "I'd like to speak to the director." She waited. "This is Jennifer Jansen," Cam said. "I'm the girl who was found hiding in the dinosaur room after the museum closed." Cam told the director about the milkman, Janet Tyler, and the dinosaur bones. She also told him the name and address of the candy store. "Yes, we'll wait here for you," Cam said, and then she hung up. "The museum director is coming," Cam told Eric. "He said that after we left, he went into the dinosaur room. He looked at the skeletons and saw that some bones were missing. He said we should wait in front of the store with our bicycles. When he gets here, he'll follow us to the house." Chapter 9. Cam and Eric went behind the store to get their bicycles. Eric started turning the dial on the lock. "Do you remember the combination?" Cam asked. "Sure. I only forgot the last time because we were in such a hurry." As Eric was turning the dial, Cam laughed and said, "You know, I don't think any dog would really be interested in those dinosaur bones. They're too old." Cam and Eric walked their bicycles to the front of the candy store. They waited for the museum director. Soon, a car drove up and stopped in front of the store. The car was just like the museum exhibits. Very old. The director was at the wheel. He waved to Cam and Eric. They got on their bicycles. The director followed them in his car to the small brick house with the white wooden fence. The milk truck was in the driveway again. "This is it," Cam told the director. "You don't have to worry about the bones," the director said. "Since I know Janet stole them, she can't bury the bones and pretend to discover them. The bones are no good to her anymore, so I'm sure she'll give them back without any trouble." The museum director got out of his car. "Of course she'll lose her job, and I'll have to report her and her friend to the police. But they should have known that could happen when they took the bones." The museum director shook hands with Cam and Eric. "I want to thank you both for all your help," he said. "Before you go, you must tell me how you knew that some bones were missing. I pass those skeletons all the time, and I didn't notice anything." Cam explained. "The last time I was at the museum, I took a picture of the dinosaur skeleton. When I looked at the picture, I knew some bones were missing." "But our guards don't let anyone take photographs in the museum." "Cam's camera's different," said Eric. "She doesn't need film or flash. Cam's camera is in her memory." The director smiled. "Well, we certainly won't stop your memory from taking photographs." He buttoned his jacket, and then he asked, "Can you take one of me?" Cam laughed. Then she looked straight at the museum director and said, "Click."